Hi, I'm Michael St.Clair and I'm here with Johnny Melgren. Today we're in a radiant zone. In our backdrop is Spain and the Pyrenees. And it's an interesting day because we have the Moon and Neptune and Chiron conjunct in Aquarius, really a network time, so we're going to also talk about networks, about our radiant zone network that we've created. Johnny is also the strategist of my website, stclaircrystals.com, and in astrology we have other very interesting alignments coming on now with Mars and Venus in Scorpio, and we have the Pisces conjunction, Jupiter-Uranus, which means, twist of plots and astonishing, surprising trends and events happening, which we're going to discuss. And there are a lot of interesting astrological alignments, all in their conjunctions, showing actually what's going on in the world on a, say, psychological level. What's going on really is a lot of disturbance, a lot of psychological, irrational behavior, which translates into everything, including the economy and decisions that are made by those who are supposed to be in charge of the economy. So to begin with, I was going to ask Johnny simply to talk to us actually about what's going on and what you feel this means for us, and then later we'll talk about what we can do about it. So maybe you can start explaining to us in simple ways what is actually transpiring in the later part of 2010 and early 2011, because we have reason to believe that something pretty drastic, if not dramatic, is transpiring, and most people don't really understand because they're either misguided by mainstream media or they simply don't have the tools to go into this and figure out really what's happening. So you can take it from here any way you want to explain what you know, because I know you've studied this for like 10-15 years. This is one of your expertise or fields of experience. So what's happening?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What is happening? I think there's sort of two things happening really. On one end, people are feeling like this downturn or recession, whatever, is about to solve itself, and people are going back to work at least in some parts of the world, and in other parts of the world, like in Detroit and other parts of the United States, things are looking really, really awful. And the thing is that this sort of recession type deal is not going any better. Quite on the contrary, this is the beginning of a huge debacle in the entire financial system. And we saw the beginning of it with the collapse of Lehman Brothers that most people are aware of. And we saw
2 years ago.
Yeah, and we saw the intervention from the White House and the Federal Reserve to sort of inject new funds into the system, and people are now believing that these programs were working. But the fact of the matter is that this financial collapse is much bigger than people realize. And what is happening right now is that central banks around the world, they are competing to devalue their own currencies to sort of boost their exporting industries. So we have multiple currencies around the world trying to get the purchasing power of their currency down. But this is really a nonsense game, because when it's a relative game. If you have one currency devaluing against another, it appears that one currency is going down. But if they're both doing it at the same time, the relativity of these two currencies will stay the same. So what this means is that everyone will lose purchasing power in their own currency, and this is transpiring now in October in 2010. And at the same time, we have a huge debacle in a big scandal, really, in the mortgage industry in the United States, where the big banks Bank of America and Citibank and all the other guys, they are being caught with a huge fraudulent behavior in the mortgage industry. The subprime mortgages and the prime mortgages have been, packaged into derivatives and resold and sold again to various pension funds and so on. And when people can't pay their mortgage on their home, they default, and the banks seize the asset, the homes. But they can no longer prove who is the legal owner of the debt, of the mortgage. So all the foreclosures in the United States have been halted as of a couple of weeks ago, and this is really the beginning of the next leg down, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be much bigger than the collapse of Lehman Brothers and AIG. So Bernanke had a speech yesterday where he essentially said that quantitative easing too is on the way. So they're going to do a new big TARP program, or a quantitative easing program, print lots of money. Nobody really knows yet how much money they will print, but it is going to be probably the biggest expansion in the monetary supply in the history of economics, really. And this is why the gold price is going up, silver price is going up. People are desperately trying to find a safe haven for their savings. And in this environment, there is really nowhere else to go but into gold and silver. And this is, of course, a good thing, because when people are moving into gold, they are actually disengaging from a dying system. So people are waking up, both economically and consciously about what is going on.
Yeah, this is well said. Going into the metal is actually a form of disengaging from the system.
Yeah.
This is very well said. I'm again with Johnny Melgren. We have been talking now about what's going on in the economy, and you were explaining that basically we're going into if I should sum this up, as a slow motion disintegration, which we don't know how long it's going to take. Could be another year, could be actually 4 to 10 years. I really don't know. My personal theory about this has to do with the alignment of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn in 2020, and I feel that one can see in history that the economic cycles go from a Saturn-Pluto opposition to a Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And so my overall feeling is that we're going to be in this whole situation for about 10 years. And I have no idea how to predict exactly time-wise, in timing factors, where we're at in this whole thing. I go more by the indicators, and you and I had told our friends that we needed to buy gold and silver, and we actually went into the metals, and those friends and clients of ours who have done that, they're doing very well, because the paper money is just about to be worthless within probably a year or 2 years at the most. So I just wanted to mention one more time that we had also written this book, the St.Clair Brief, and we had used this as an introduction for those friends of ours who are part of this network that we created. And if you're interested to know more about our network, you just go on our website, stclaircrystals.com, and there in that network we actually do update and advisories and commentaries on what's going on, not only in economy and metals, but really about everything that's going on worldwide. And this is geared towards the creation of radiant zones or islands of lights, however you want to call them, places and zones that are functional, where we can continue creating our microeconomies and where we can, thrive and do well, because we're not at all of this survivalist school, although we know that some pretty bizarre and dramatic things are about to transpire. And our opinion is the answer to this has to be to basically disengage from the system And that's where we're at before, as we were sitting outside talking about gold. Gold is in a way, going into metals, is a way of disengaging from the system. So perhaps you want to take it from here and speak to gold and what you feel one should be doing now.
Yeah. Well, we have to sort of look at the big picture, really. What kind of economic paradigm are we living in? I mean, 99% of everything we buy as consumers we throw away within 6 months. That's sort of the opposite of an economy. Economy is about managing your household, really. And if you work and throw everything away in the time of only 6 months, that is sort of a search and destroy economy. It is taking us nowhere as a species on this planet. And so in terms of what we need to do, and in terms of radiant zones, as you call sort of the new organization around economics, is really get back to local economies and engage in everyday trade with your neighbors and communities around your own community.
Yes, that's very important. The solution is local. I agree with you.
Yeah.
We have to go back to the local and to the trading, or regional, but local.
Exactly.
Maybe even in walking distance, depending on what else is happening with weather, climate, and etc.
Yeah.
Yes, go into this, what this means now.
Yes, because, I mean, the entire globalization of the world would not be possible without the financial banking system. And when this financial banking system is disintegrating and destroying itself by its own, accords,
Yes.
really, the outcome of that transition will be a local economy.
Yes.
Either we want it or not, it's going to happen. And the good thing about this is it's actually going back in line with the resources in your own community and in line with nature.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing right now is that we're actually destroying our economy, destroying our planet. And this is, of course, not sustainable. We've been living in this constant sort of dream world based on infinite growth, but within a finite
Yes.
planet that is totally nonsense.
Yeah.
So that's why we're saying that the disengagement from the financial system and breakup of the financial system is actually a fantastically good thing in the long run. But as you're saying, until like 2020, it will be a rough ride, of course, and we have to sort of change our way of life and organizing ourselves. And that will, take a lot of time and effort and energy, and it's going to be painful and not so painful for others.
Yes,
but
that depends how we are prepared.
Yeah.
But you're right, we're talking about a 10-year, more or less, a decade of transition in our way of doing things, in the way we're going to prepare ourselves, because we know about things that are coming right around the corner here in a few months. And